Welcome everybody to CFO Conversations. I'm your host, Paula Kensington, and in this series we're talking about sustainability and reporting. I've got the pleasure of welcoming Henrik and Alison to the conversation, and we're really exploring what does it mean. As we know, sustainability reporting is becoming mandated and it's no longer an option, a choice, which means we have to understand and we have to educate ourselves. And that's what part of this conversation is. So this conversation is about the CFO and how does the CFO drive the conversation and help to drive that fundamental change that impacts everything in the value chain. Some businesses, I guess, are going to be more advanced than others, but there are going to be some businesses where none of the executive team have potentially thought about the impact that the business has on nature and what the impact of nature has on the business. Whether or not you're in business that has a huge impact, it will be something that we all have to report against because investors, creditors, supply chain, logistics, customers, staff, all of that care about this and they want to know what we're doing about it. So I'd be keen to understand what have we seen work around how the CFO brings about this change within the business. I might come to you, Henrik. What are you seeing or have seen or experienced?
Well, I think I've not seen it work very well end to end in the businesses I've been. I think the discussion is really that this is having an impact on business performance in the end. Used to be something that was more interesting but not necessary. Well, now I think it's, if it becomes mandated, it has to be done, and if you don't do it, it's going to have a negative impact on you, and then it's up to the CFO to make sure that you do what you can to avoid that. But as far as the whole framework or a whole strategy being put in place and rolled out, I haven't seen that. Coming from a more manufacturing heavy background, as I said, is more of point solution to certain things as water use and electricity use and these things.
And you've probably had a bit of an opposite effect, Alison, because I know Arup is quite well advanced in its thinking around strategy and including sustainability as part of that.
Yeah, and I think that was certainly the catalyst for me to really lean into this and understand it more, and then help drive a conversation within our firm around the changes we needed to implement. So I think being a professional services firm, like primarily about people and how do you value that human capital, and talking to people about a whole new language, actually. There's so many acronyms to get your head around, and but I actually quite enjoyed it, and it just took a lot of one-to-one engagement, going from the traditional financial metrics and starting to talk more holistically around how we're going to look across integrated management information and setting up a framework that sits alongside that. That's been a journey, but quite an interesting one. And I think people now are starting to realise, no, this is real, this is happening, and really quite excited about the journey that we'll go on.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned to me as well in preparation for this conversation around how accountants in your team are actually putting their hands up because they want to do something other than just month-end routine.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I think there's certainly a whole new area of skills and credibility to bring to this chapter of what finance can do in the future. So we certainly reached out to the Global Finance Network to see who was interested to really drive a culture that sat alongside sustainability for the firm and be a part of it, because otherwise you get left behind really quickly. So yeah, no, I was quite again inspired by those that were willing to come along the journey with me. So it was great.
And I guess putting up the measurements, everyone tried to get a balanced scorecard back in the days, and then the name sort of didn't work quite well, and now everyone has a dashboard. But putting it up, even if it's qualitative information, I think it's also, even if it's not a hard measure, it's still important enough to be on there. Yeah, and I think
I think it can be a value add to the business. I think we've talked about compliance, and CFOs tend to worry or care about the things that if they don't do, are going to get you into trouble. But it's also a shift in mindset that says, well, what is the potential for our organization if we understand the impact that we're having and the impact that nature has and other people are having on us? The potential is actually quite huge. And I think Alison talked about a new language, and it feels like there is a new language that finance professionals need to start to embrace.
Yeah, we were probably in a fortunate position. We've got consultants in the firm that do this for a living as well. So we're able to sort of partner with them and understand how we make it happen within a firm of our size. And with all the data we have at our fingertips, finance was well placed to, because as we all know, we're good with data, we're good with numbers, like people see us as a credible place to come to make sure that the reporting's robust, and it can serve both internal management purposes, but that external stakeholder reporting as well. Because I think, in my opinion, it's not mandated everywhere yet, but it's not going to be far off.
Yeah.
And so I think that was part of the reason to say, well, let's do a bit of a gap analysis now, understand what we need to put in place for the future to get ready.
Yeah, definitely CFOs like to be risk adverse. So even if you don't have a passion about sustainability, then you need to make sure that if we don't do anything, then there's going to be a big steam train coming straight at us. But I think everyone's now tapping into the impact that, people think sustainability is global warming. That's just one of the 17 different aspects around the SDGs, but people are now witnessing it and feeling it for themselves, and that's when people start taking action, when it actually impacts them personally. Either it's like through drought or flooding or war, fire. Just look at the whole world. I don't think there's one pocket that hasn't been impacted by these huge nature events.
Yeah, no, very true. I think the voice of our community will certainly have its part to play as well. And holding, whether it's corporates or small to medium firms, to some level of account for this in the future. We're certainly seeing that play out in the way we set up cities and design cities for the future to be more sustainable and regenerative. So, I think that's also another stakeholder group we have to listen to.
Yeah, a great segue to our next conversation. So I'm going to leave that one there, and we'll start up on our other conversations. So thank you, ladies and gents.